guys, how's it going? So I wanted to make this video as a follow-up to my splint removal video. If you haven't seen it yet, please take a look, browse through my channel. It has about 1.8 nearing 1.9 million views at this time. I posted the video about 14 years ago, roughly almost 15 years ago. That's when I had my surgery, and the video just shows the process of the split removal and kind of what happens when you are done with your surgery and you see your ear, nose, throat specialist about a week after that. I know the journey is a little bit different for everybody, and the standards of care is probably changed since my surgery was done. But I do want to talk about a couple things that happened to me after the surgery that doesn't happen to everybody, but I wanted to share this as a follow-up and open up comments for everybody to share their journey, what happened with the surgery. Hopefully you guys have a very smooth journey, nothing bad happens. But basically, I got a complication after the surgery, and I went through some very gnarly things, which eventually got resolved. But I just want to again share it with everybody, so nobody's afraid of something that might happen, and it is fixable if it does happen to you. So the video cuts essentially me getting my splints removed, and I'm sitting there. I can breathe normal, but there are a couple things happen. So while I was recovering for about a week, so the surgery happened, and for about a week after that, I was bleeding here and there and recovering in bed. I was being taken care of full time. At the time, I lived with my parents, so my mom was very supportive and helping me with everything. I was taking everything as prescribed, so all the prescriptions, my antibiotics, the painkillers, so I was very numb and just kind of laying there with a little cover on my nose, but I always had a little bleeding from under my nose. It never fully went away, even at the time when the splints got removed. So, you know, I'm young. I didn't think anything of that. And I went through that week. I went to the doctor's office. The doctor went ahead and removed the splints, as you can see in that video. I take a deep breath. I feel great. I can breathe. Everything is great. No issues. So I thought this was done. I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is over. I'm going to breathe normal. Let's move on with the life. So I went back to university. So at the time I was going to university. And it didn't happen on the first day, but about 2 days later, I was sitting in a class, and the class was done. And I grabbed my bags. I had a lot of books. I threw it over my shoulder, and I bent down, bent back up, stood up, and I just felt that gushing of blood on the inside of my nose. It wasn't like in the front, it was like in the back. And I just felt my throat filling up with blood. So I was like, holy shit. I ran to the bathroom, and as I was running, I started just spitting out bright red blood. So I know it sounds nasty, but it really did happen. So obviously my teacher saw it. I had my classmates at the time, they saw it. Everybody freaked out, and they called an ambulance. So I was taken to emergency room for the first time. I went in there. I told the emergency doctor, I was like, here's what happened. I had a surgery done. There's something is wrong. Like, that shouldn't be like that. They put little things on my nose to stop the bleeding and said, it's fine. Don't worry about it. It happens all the time. And I was like, no, there's something is wrong. You guys need to help me. So they sent me home ultimately in a few hours. So I was tired as hell. I went home. I told my parents at the time what happened. Trying to make some phone calls to my doctor. My doctor was on vacation, unfortunately, at that time, which, didn't align with my problems. I lay down, passed out. About an hour later, I woke up choking in my blood again. So it happened again. So they called ambulance one more time. I was picked up by an ambulance. There was a whole other story because at the time we lived in a really bad neighborhood. A bunch of cops showed up. They thought it was a domestic violence case, which was really funny. I ended up screaming at the police officer, telling him to get out of my way. I had a surgery. Just leave me alone. And he was like, oh, okay, all right. So I went to emergency room, to a different one this time. So I asked him specifically to take me to a different place, to where my insurance was at the time. Once I arrived there, I told them what happened again. They tried to contact my doctor. He was on vacation. So the emergency department doctor went in there, and, she looked, she saw where the bleeding was happening, and she started packing my nose. So I don't really know what's going on. It's just, all I know, it's bright red. I'm like coughing it out. I just keep profusely bleeding bright red. She started putting, little cellulose tape on there on the inside, opening up those little, they kind of look like tampons, like a little packing for your nose. So she shot up two of them in both of my nostrils. I could feel them expanding and pressing against my sinuses. And after she put them in, she was like, "Oh crap, I put the wrong size ones. I think your sinuses are pretty large, so I have to take him out and repack him because I don't think that's going to stop the bleeding." I told her, I was like, "Look, slow down. Let's see if it works. And if it doesn't work, then you can do it." So we waited for about, I don't know, 30 minutes, and still the blood is coming out. It was going at the slow rate, but I could still, there's no improvement. So she came in, she apologized. She said, "I'm sorry, I'm going to have to break your nose by removing him." So I was like, okay. So at that time, I don't think I felt any pain. She ripped them out. I can feel everything cracking in my nasal passages. And she removed them. I can see them. They're swollen. They're really thick. They're probably like that thick, full of blood. And she, again, did the whole outline of whatever the material they used. She said it was some cellulose tape, if I remember correctly. And she put the biggest size packing in there. So I was there for about 6 hours. It stopped. The bleeding stopped. Maybe like 6-7 hours later, they did the test. They said I was really close to blood transfusion. They asked me if I want a blood transfusion because I lost, a couple of units of blood. I told them no, unless it's required, and if you think I'm gonna die or something like that, right? So I ended up spending the night at that hospital, and then I went to a different hospital to see a specialist the following day. When I came in, the specialist, again, she looked at me. She looked through the case notes, and she said that, "Okay, I'm going to apologize. I'm really sorry. I will fix it right now here on the spot." It's like, "I cannot numb you, so you have to go through the pain again. I'm going to have to break your nose and take everything out." It is what it is. So they pulled out both of those gouges full of blood. They're all crusty. So the blood actually stopped at the time. I could feel my face cracking again completely. But I was in so much pain, and I was already suffering pretty greatly from that for about, probably 16 hours. So I said, okay, it is what it is. They went into my nose with endoscope and some of cauterization, chemical cauterization utensils with a little chemical in there. She opened my nose. She looked at it. She was like, "I see exactly what's happening. It looks like the incision that happened during septoplasty didn't fully heal. So I'm going to go ahead and cauterize it." So she went in there, cauterized it, and that's it. It was done. I spent, a couple hours there to make sure nothing happens. It doesn't bleed again. And I was sent home with some painkillers. So looking back at that, it was pretty rough going through that. And I know they broke my nose multiple times, and I never went back to the surgeon to see if I need another surgery. And my nose does feel better after that, but I feel like in the very near future, I have to go back for another follow-up and potentially repeat this procedure. So just remember a couple things. I want everybody to know this. Make sure you communicate with your doctor about any potential complications. If something feels off during your recovery process, you're probably right, something is off. Make sure you over-communicate with your doctor, take your prescription on time, your antibiotics and painkillers, and don't lift anything heavy. So I think that had something to do with that. But again, I don't know. It might have been, the stitch didn't heal, something else happened, who knows? But follow all instructions, and if something bad happens, make sure you follow up with your physician. So yeah, that's all. That's what I wanted to talk about today, and happy recovery, everybody. And if you guys want to talk about it, I'm very engaged in my comments. You guys have comment space below. Feel free to drop in a comment and share your experience. Hopefully everything goes well, and thank you for listening.